There we go. Thank you. I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start off with the Pledge of Allegiance, and our flag is directly above us here. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Cheers.
No.
All right. Thank you very much. I'm going to go to closed session announcements. Vice President Butler.
Yep,
will
thank
report
you.
out.
The board did meet in closed session this evening. Government Code 54957 and 54957.6, conference with labor negotiator, Chris Koska, Assistant Superintendent, Human Resources, employees, organization, Nevada Federation of Teachers, otherwise known as NFT. We gave direction to staff. And the second item on closed session we did not cover.
Thank you, Vice President Butler. The next item is the approval of the agenda. Before we do that, I'd like to see if it's all right with the board. I'd like to move item 11 down below by item 12. So comment would come after item 12.
Mr. President, I'll move to rearrange tonight's agenda.
Thank you. First.
I'll second.
Second. All in favor? Passes 7 in favor. Thank you very much. All right, it's at this point I just wanted to make a few comments and welcome everyone to tonight's meeting. This is a board meeting. It's a special board meeting, and just some kind of housekeeping for the night. Please address the board. The podium's right up here. If you come up for public comment, we're going to try and hold or not have any applause after speakers. If you can respect that, I think we're going to have a lot of speakers. We've got quite a few, so just in the interest of getting through everything, I want to make sure that we get through. So clapping, if we can, and applause. I'd appreciate it if you didn't do that. I also want to bring up a couple things, just history and kind of what's gone on in this process. This has been a very, there have been a lot of issues on either side. We've talked to a lot of people. This board has been open-minded. We've listened to everybody's opinion. We've gotten lots of emails. We studied the EIR, and I just wanted to say this board has spent a lot of time doing our due diligence in coming to this decision that we're going to tonight. I want to make sure that this community, I want to applaud and done a really good job through this whole process of being respectful to one another. If you have a different opinion from someone else, that's fine. You're entitled to that. But we need to remember we need to stay respectful to one another. We certainly have done that. You have done a great job of that. I'm proud of that. It's Nevada. Let's see, with respect to public's comments, I have a lot of blue cards right here. If you do want to, if you're interested in speaking to the board up here, there are blue cards way at the back by the door. Phil went out and bring it up somehow to Gladys right here, and she'll get it to me, and we'll just essentially go through this list. This is a special meeting, and it's essentially this is the only item on tonight's meeting. Let's see if I had anything else. Just with respect to public comment, please try and limit yourself to 3 minutes. We do have a limit of 3 minutes, and Gladys will be keeping. We have a timer, and she does a very, very good job. And so there's a 3 minute limit to your comments. If you have heard possibly someone else say the same thing that you, kind of your opinion and has been already expressed, if we would, in the interest of time and all the speakers tonight, we'd appreciate maybe if you would consider passing, and just let me know if that's the case, if you want to pass your time. We will not be, one other rule, we will not be yielding your time. If you have extra time, you won't be yielding it to other speakers. And I think I just want to make sure we cover everything. I just want to say thank you all for coming. We really value this opportunity to listen to all of you. And with that, I think we'll get on with the meeting. Public comment on consent agenda. Do we have any? Yeah, why don't you go through real quick? While we go through that, then I'll ask the board for approval of consent agenda, but hold off for 1 second.
Some people didn't put anything, so we're just going to go with it.
So to be clear, we're going to move 2 items that are on the consent agenda, which have to do with just district business, personnel action, and declaration of need. You need a motion for those 2 items?
Correct. Let's just make sure we don't have any
Yeah,
public
there's-
comment.
there's none.
Okay, so seeing none, yes, that's correct. Trustee Miller, there's 2 items on tonight's consent, very small.
Okay.
There's a personnel action, A, and B is a declaration for
So
fully
I'll move the
qualified.
consent agenda so we can put that regular school business
Very good.
aside and move on to the rest of the
So
business.
first, Trustee Miller, thank you. Trustee Aguilar, and all in favor? All in favor? 7-0, thank you very much. I did want to point out one more thing. We do have a lot of students here this evening with us, and just another reason to kind of keep things rolling. We don't want to keep them out too late if we can. So, out of respect to them. All right, item 10, discussion our San Marin Stadium Lights project, and I'll turn that over to Superintendent Hogaboom.
Thank you, President Cooper. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the project objectives to start with, and then talk about background and timeline, and then discuss a little bit about board policy and administrative regulations. And then our Chief Business Officer, Yancey Hawkins, will talk about the project mitigations, the project funding, and then next steps before we actually introduce the item. So I'd like to read off the objectives of proposal. We had 6 of them. The first was to provide extended availability of the athletic fields to improve academic performance by minimizing early class dismissal and missed instructional time for student athletes. Number 2, allow for the scheduling of games at a time when students, parents, and community members can more easily attend the events, which would increase school spirit and increase revenue from ticket purchases. Number 3, provide nighttime opportunities for students to gather to cheer on their teams, offering an alternative to going to parties or other unhealthy recreational activities in an alcohol-free environment. Number 4, improve athlete safety by providing superior lighting conditions during practices and sports events. Number 5, improve safety by minimizing incompatible uses from sharing the fields. And number 6, improve the public address system to focus and contain sound within the stadium. So that's the main reason why the lights were brought to us, and this all started about 18 months ago in October of 2015. So let me just kind of recap a little bit some of the key events that we've had that have led us to this decision tonight. So in October of 2015, I met with a group of parents and boosters with Lights for San Marin who wanted to bring forward a proposal to install lights at San Marin Stadium, and they wanted to know how to bring that forward to the trustees. On May 17th, 2016, the Board of Trustees approved a contract with Rincon Consultants to provide the California Environmental Quality Act compliance, which meant that we would prepare an environmental impact report. On August 25th, Rincon sent out a notice of preparation and initial study to the community. And on September 7th, we had a first scoping meeting over at the Student Center to receive comments and answer questions about the initial study. On December 20th, the draft environmental impact report was released, which started the public comment period. On January 24th, the board held a special meeting to hear public comments on the draft EIR. At the next regular meeting on January 31st, the board extended public comments to provide more time to visit Hillsdale High School. And so we took a bus down to Hillsdale High School in San Mateo that's installing a very similar light system to the one that we're proposing. And board members and members of the community and some neighbors went with us down to check that out. On April 18th, of 2017, the initial release of the final EIR was let out with 97 public comment letters that were responded to. On May 10th, the final EIR was released, including responses to an additional 58 comment letters. So we received about 155 overall comments about the Stadium Lights project. More recently, the district has held 3 community meetings and with the neighbors, which were held on March 28th, May 9th, and May 18th. The purpose of these meetings was to open dialogue with the neighbors around the development of board policies and administrative regulations that would provide some safeguards and limitations on field usage and conditions to reduce the impact on the neighbors. So I'd like to also reiterate what President Cooper said, which is that I think we've had lots of respectful dialogue and discussions, and I know this is a very controversial issue. And I just would like to commend our community because I think people have tried to be empathetic and try to understand where everybody's coming from. I know a lot of the neighbors by name now and by sight. And I think that we've done a good job of modeling. And some of our students came to those meetings and some of our coaches. And unlike our national politics, where people don't seem to be able to understand each other or appreciate each other, I think we've done a really good job of listening because there are 2 sides to every story. And there will be impacts on the neighborhood of these lights. There will definitely be an impact on the neighborhood. And so the role of the board is to decide if the benefits of the lights outweigh those impacts. But I really respect the fact that people have come together. I know some students actually last week met at one of the neighbors' houses right up the street to listen to each other. And so our ability to have a dialogue and an open discussion that's respectful is really, really important because we don't seem to be able to do that on a national level. So I'd like to thank everybody for that. So the last thing I'd like to talk about a little bit is you have some attachments. So one of the things the neighbors requested was some renderings. So you guys have a couple different renderings of what the lights would look like from across the street on San Marin Drive, and then also from up kind of behind the hill. So that's in there as attachment A and attachment B. And attachment C compares Hillsdale High School and San Marin and kind of the distances of where those the stadiums are in regards to the neighborhood. And one thing you'll notice is that the Hillsdale Sports Stadium is a little bit closer to the neighbors than ours. On one side, they're 150 feet is the closest house. Ours would be 200. And on the other side, 140 feet to 210. So ours is a little bit further away than the Hillsdale. So the last thing I'd like to discuss is board policy. So board policies and administrative regulations are the way that the school board conducts business in all school districts. And so before you is a draft board policy. So if the stadium lights are approved, we will also be approving down the line a board policy and administrative regulations. We will be bringing these back 2 more times on June 6 and 13 for the board's input and suggestions. So these were drafted and crafted with the neighbors. We met 3 times to get their suggestions. And some of the kind of concessions that we made and some of the key provisions, I'd like to read a few of those. One is that the Nevada Unified School District will not allow outside user groups to use or rent the stadium lights. We will also not allow the lights to be used on weekends. And finally, stadium lights will always be turned off as soon as possible after the completion of any practice or game. So during the week, that would be, practices would be completed by 7:30, and games would be completed by 8 o'clock, and we expect that football games would be completed by 9 o'clock. Many of the other places that we looked at had the lights on until 10 o'clock. I know Rolling Hills tennis lights down until 10 o'clock, so that was a significant move to have the lights be off earlier. A lot of the other places also rent the lights out to outside user groups, and they use them on the weekends as well. So that was a fairly significant change that we made in the ARs. They also would not allow the PA system to be used on Sundays. Currently, with Nevada Youth Football, the PA system is used on Sunday. That would move to Saturday. We also had suggestions of no lights on holidays, which is a great idea. And we also spent a lot of time in the administrative regulations talking about safety to the neighborhood. So neighbors were concerned that people would be in the community, and so we worked hard with our police department and North Bay Security to make sure we put a plan together that would address some of those concerns. So I'm not going to go through all the administrative regulations. I hope you guys, I'm sure, have read those. Let me just read a couple highlights from there. During the first 2 years of implementation, district and San Marin High School staff will review the regs with community representatives and report to the board. So we want to see how things, if the lights are approved, see how things work out, and then make adjustments accordingly. There's key contact numbers if there's concerns. The holidays are in here. The public address system, we will be making improvements to the public address system whether the lights are approved or not, because right now it doesn't do a good job of targeting the sound. We'll not use a PA system at all on Sundays, and there's certain requirements for the volume. Stadium noise, we'll do everything we can to prevent things like noisemakers, air horns, whistles. The neighbor houses are really close to the field, and if any of you guys have been up there, you know that you can hear the noise really travels. So that also includes not having band instruments like drums and that kind of stuff. Finally, safety issues. We worked with, met a couple times with the Novato Police Department, also met with North Bay Security. We'll be hiring an off-duty police person to kind of patrol the neighborhoods. North Bay Security Group will help us also in the stadium and in the surrounding parking lots and areas. And again, we will review after every game how the safety plan worked and what kind of adjustments we need to make. So with that, you also in here, you'll see administrative regulations that we currently have about our public address system. So again, we will be bringing those back during the next couple meetings for your input. And you want to take any questions? Or
Yep, thank you. So trustees, getting back to the board, any clarifying questions on anything that Jim just talked about? Otherwise, I'd like to move on to Yancey. Okay. All right, so Yancey, yeah, you're up.
Get turned on.
Hello? All right. Thank you, trustees. So I'm going to go over 3 items. The first is the project mitigations. The second is the project costs related to the lights and the related PA project, as well as operating costs. And the last would be the next steps that the board and the district would be moving forward with. In terms of project mitigations, the project mitigations are included in the final EIR, but I'll go over the main ones now. The first is a full photometric study when the final design is approved, and this looks at 2 main things, glare and light trespass, and there are appropriate levels that are included in the EIR around candelas and foot candles for both of those, so they would have to meet those thresholds in order to move forward with the photometric study. The second is hiring a qualified principal investigator, which is an archaeologist and project paleontologist who would do training for the construction companies in case any items are seen or found during construction. The next is the public address system design and implementation. So a new public address system would have to be designed and implemented and designed at a not to exceed thresholds at the surrounding houses. The last is if during the project there are any unexpected discovery of defined items, work on the project would immediately stop until a qualified representative, be that our principal investigator, paleontologist, or other, can make recommendations of how we move forward and mitigate those items. And a full list of the mitigations are included in the final EIR. In terms of project costs, for the Stadium Lights project, the total project budget is approximately $1.2 million. Staff recommends a shared cost model with NUSD contributing approximately half of that amount, or about $600,000. The rest funded out of Fund 21, which is one of our facilities funds that we've currently in this current year used to upgrade our science rooms and help do the solar projects, as well as some of the preschool programs that we've added. In terms of the PA project, the projected cost is approximately $250,000, and staff's recommendation is that be funded out of Fund 22, which is the Measure G funds. And staff's recommendation is that the district move forward with that project, irregardless of the decision with the lights. In terms of operating costs, due to the LED nature of the lights and the solar project that the district did, limiting costs of electricity, the operating costs are assumed to be approximately $5,000 per year. And one of the things of offsetting the potential project costs is the must-go poles, the 80-foot poles that are there, are warranted for 25 years for maintenance and the bulbs. In terms of cost of the night events, we've worked with other districts to determine potential revenues and costs of those. And based on our information, we believe that those would be at least at a break-even point or better. In terms of initial financial commitment, if the board approves the project tonight, we will be moving forward with architectural, structural engineering, electrical engineering, and soils testing. Those costs are approximately $100,000, and we recommend the same split cost or shared cost with those financial commitments. So next steps, if the board approves the projects tonight, the next step is the project design that we talked about, architect, engineering, and soils. And the next step after that, one thing I wanted to note is the pictures that you noted that we saw of the rendering show the 80-foot poles. Once the final design, there also will be the security lighting outside of that. But the community had asked for what the 80-foot poles would look like. The next step would be after full design, that photometric study would be completed to ensure that they meet the thresholds required in the EIR around candelas and foot candles around glare and trespass. And after that approval, the project would go to the Division of State Architect, which will review all aspects of the project, including ADA and structural and safety, and before it would go out to bid. So with that, I will open it up to any questions from the board.
All right, board, clarifying questions at this point? Yes, trustee Nell. Oh, go ahead, trustee Scott, sorry.
Just to clarify, Yancey.
Yes.
When we go out to bid, should this pass for the architects, you mentioned shared costs. Are we going to be also sharing in that aspect as well?
Yes, the recommendation is to share the $1.2 million cost of the project, which includes the $100,000 of what we kind of refer to as soft costs. It's a portion of the soft cost of the project. And so our recommendation would be that we contribute approximately $600,000 to the project. That would include those.
All right, trustee Nell, and then trustee Mack, and then trustee Miller.
Assistant Superintendent Hawkins, my question is in regard to the operating budget and how we're going to be accounting for it. Should I assume that this will be a site budget, kept as a site budget analysis, or will it be a combination of the district's control as well as the site? Or will the district control the revenue generated and then the expenses for the lights in their operation?
On the game night, there's several different ways that different districts do that, whether doing it at the district level or at the site level. So I think that is to be determined. I think it's important to note that when the final administrative regulations are passed, that will kind of guide that decision making, because the more controls that are put in place, it would push likely to more of a district control if the district is putting, in terms of safety and other things. But most districts have those revenues and expenses sit somewhere at the site level for operating costs. And so I would hold off that judgment until the administrative regulations are completed.
All right, I appreciate that. We're looking forward to discussing that later as we get closer to finalizing the A&R.
Okay, fair enough. Trustee Mack?
Yancy, I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but the latest version of the lighting systems that are out there, there is a 4-pole design that just was released that could perform the same function. Is that something that we might go down that path if it turns out that that makes sense in terms of just mitigating the number of poles if it puts out the same light coverage?
So I would have to say that, number one, I'd have to see that, and I would have to see the numbers around that, and I would also have to see if it impacts at all our decision around the environmental impact report, and if we're at all limited by that. But in terms of, I'm always looking for a less expensive and better design. But if it doesn't meet the requirements of the finalized EIR, then we couldn't move forward with it. So we'd have to have additional information at that point. I will say that the design and contracts will come back before the board before we enter into any contracts.
So we can look into it then. Okay, that's all I need to know. Thanks.
Thank you. Trustee Miller?
Thank you, Mr. President. Couple of questions on the financial pieces that we're putting together. So the first thing I'd like to talk about is the audio part of the project, and I heard our superintendent say, under any circumstances, approval of lights or not, the district is going to proceed to work on the public address system up at Mead Field to make sure it's less intrusive to the neighbors and better serves the sports programs that
So that is the recommendation of staff, is that the public address system upgrades would be recommended irregardless of the board's decision on the lights tonight.
And the financial source for the funds to do that, the estimated $200,000 would come out of Measure G, which was the bond the community just passed, because it's not the lights, it's just improving our instructional facility and being a better neighbor. Do I understand your thinking?
Yes, it would be included under the improving the middle school and high school athletics facilities portion of the Measure G, and that's the recommendation of staff at this point.
Okay, so when you do that study, can I request that you also go look at Novato High and see if there's an appropriate, we need to do a study over there as well, just do an assessment to determine that if they're facing the same issues, come back to us with a discussion item we can have about that as well.
Yes, we can do that.
Okay, now on to the lights. My understanding is the $1.1 million funding for the lights estimated cost all in the proposal is half of that money would come from a campaign run by volunteers in the community to raise the $600,000 or whatever half of 1.1 million is, and that would not be district funds. That's not even money, and we would wait for that money to be collected. Is that an accurate statement?
Yeah, so the recommendation of staff is that the district fund half of the estimated costs and those additional costs so you are correct.
Okay, so that half would not be funded by the district. The half that is funded by the district, can you explain to me, we just talked about Fund 22, the Measure G money. You're saying the half of the lights that the district is proposing to put forward funding, $600,000, comes out of Fund 21. And are there, where does that money come from, and what's the background on that? The last time we met, I asked for some questions, and you and I have talked in your office with some clarity, and maybe you can cover those points here so everybody's got the same information.
Absolutely. So those funds actually, the remaining funds in Fund 21 come from a transfer in May of 2015 that were made. These are related to RDA funds, they're pass-through funds related to facilities. And in 2011, 2012, all RDAs, redevelopment agencies.
Yeah, there you go.
Redevelopment agencies were canceled throughout the state in some litigation that was statewide. And so we had been receiving those pass-through funds for facilities-related projects. And in May of 2015, the board agreed that it made sense to have those facilities-related fund balances moved into a facilities-related fund. So that was a little over $1.5 million, and that's the remainder of the funds that are in that at this point.
So to be clear, those funds could not be used were never targeted for general fund money for classroom. They were facilities money as they were collected and brought to us, and we put them aside in a facilities account.
That is a correct statement.
So
These were redevelopment agency funds that were specifically identified by the redevelopment agency agreement as facilities funds.
we could use them for some other science lab or something, but
They
or
would
this facility upgrade that we're talking about tonight.
Yes, but they would have to be used for some sort of facilities-related expenditures.
Thank you for the clarification. Thank you, Mr. President.
You're welcome anytime. Trustee Mack, you have a follow-up?
Yeah, I just want to follow up on
Who's?
Just want to follow up on Trustee Miller's question about the sound systems. Totally agree that we have 2 sound systems in town that both need work. I think we did a lot of great work a while back, but it's still not there yet. Just to be clear, I think we need to really focus on getting a lot of small speakers that target very specific areas and get rid of the big loudspeakers, and then we'll really make a big difference. But you've heard me say that before, but it's very important to me that we do it at both schools because both schools have the same issues. And as well that we work on the digital compression, the digital management of those sound systems so that it can't be turned up, which is already at Novato High, but I'm not sure if it's here. Anyway, thank you.
Gets the mic to work. Yancy, I have a quick question. I think that's it for us for right now, but I do have a question about the funding. We're going to split the costs, at least based on what you just said. Our money's going to be spent, how is it going to be, what's the timeline of spending money? Are we going to wait until all of that money that's due us from the other group, once that comes in, then we're going to start spending money, or are we going to spend our money first, or how do you foresee that?
So I think it's important to note that the first monies that are being spent of the $1.2 million light project is only about the 100,000, and those are related to the design costs. So those are the costs that would be moved forward, and I would recommend that we, when we have the sharing agreement in place, that those, as soon as we receive those funds, we would put in our portion and move forward with those. And then prior to the contracts being entered into, that we would have either the funds or an agreement in place that we were comfortable with to move forward with the projects at that time.
And then when do you foresee getting the $75,000 back to the district for fronting that money up front?
Say that again?
Well, so $50,000, when do we, so if we spend it up front, I'm just a little concerned about saying, okay, we're going to pay the costs up front, when in fact we're splitting the costs and, okay, we'll get the money back.
In terms of the sharing, for the first 100,000, I would say that we wait until we have those funds in hand or a commitment agreement in hand, that
Perfect.
assures the collection of those funds before we move forward with that. And then the next would be around the approving of the likely 2 contracts or related to the construction contract, which is a much larger percentage of it. It's the remaining $1.1 million.
Thank you very much. Any other questions, Trustee Aguirre?
So bottom line, the money that if the lights get approved, the money will not be taken, any money will be taken away from the classrooms, right?
So the recommendation of the contribution is made out of funds, the building funds, which can only be used for facilities. So they cannot be used for operational costs.
So we will not be taking any money from the classrooms.
Yes.
All right. Thank you very much. Thanks for the presentation. Thank you, trustees. And now we're on to Superintendent Hogaboom. We'll, since we moved item 11 down below this next item, discussion action will be the resolution 31, 2016, 17. Jim.
So that's what we're all here for tonight. So the staff brings forward to the board, actually, there's kind of three items in one here. The first is Resolution 31, 2016-17 for the Board of Education of the Nevada Unified School District to approve the San Marin High School Stadium Lights Project. The second is to adopt a statement of overriding considerations in support thereof. And the third is adopting a mitigation monitoring plan. So the resolution, as you see, is kind of with all those whereas, and now be it resolved, which kind of lays out the details of the proposal. The statement of overriding consideration basically is from the environmental impact report and says that yes, there are impacts to the surrounding neighborhood, but that those can be mitigated except for the unavoidable impact of stadium noise. So that's that one, and basically what you're asked to do there is you're saying that the balance of the benefit, if you approve it, is the balance of the benefits of the proposed project outweigh the unavoidable environmental risks. So that's what the statement of overriding considerations talks about. And then the last one is the mitigation, monitoring, and reporting program, and that's basically what Yancey talked about, which are the mitigation factors that are mentioned in the environmental impact report will be conducted. So it's kind of a three-part motion. As Yancey also mentioned, the funding is estimated about $582,500, and we would take that out of Fund 21. Half of it, we would share the costs with the boosters, and the funding for the PA system would come out of Fund 22, which is Measure G for the bond, and that's about $245,000. And superintendent and staff recommend that the Board of Trustees approve the project.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Hogaboom. Trustees, what I'd like to do at this point is I have a lot of blue cards. I'd like to get them rolling. Unless either of you has any clarifying questions, I'd like to start on these. All right. So yeah, I think what I'll do is I'll call your name. I'm going to call three at a time. If you could all come up to the podium and line up, and then announce yourself and talk to us. Gladys will have the timer on for 3 minutes, and if you could be respectful of that, that would be wonderful. And we look forward to your comments. And I'm first going to call up Kathy Giannini, followed by Mike Giannini, followed by Adam Littlefield. Nothing like the first one. Welcome. If you could just briefly announce your...
Thank you. I just want to remind everyone that the San Marin neighborhood was developed in the early 60s, and then San Marin was built in 68. And there was an agreement implied back then that the fields would just be used during the daytime, that there would be no lights. And in 77, the SMIA and the Marin County Open Space District purchased the Mount Burdell Preserve. And the residents around the school have taken much pride in the schools, the neighborhood, and the open space, and have supported the beauty and the serenity of this area. And while enjoying the sounds of the kids at recess and fans cheering the San Marin teams, we have felt we have been good neighbors and supportive of the school. So we ask, why is it that the proponents feel that we should be the ones to move? They moved to the area knowing there were no stadium lights. And why should we change our environment and community to meet their needs or their wants? We support education and the school bonds, There are no statistics that show Friday nights lights improve the academic scores or graduation rates. At the last approval meeting for the ER, students read off all the schools in the surrounding counties have lights. That does not mean that San Marin should have lights. You must remember, no two schools are alike. Just because lights are right for one school has absolutely no bearing on it being right for San Marin. Marin Catholic is a perfect example of a school community where lights don't fit. They have chosen not to move forward, and they are being good neighbors. With the change in the MCAL soccer schedule, Karen Maloney, the assistant superintendent, reported to the Board of Trustees that the district could accommodate games and practices without lights. With the exception of Santa Fe and Tamale High School, all other high schools have been able to accommodate practices and games without lights. We hear this project is for students. What about infants, toddlers, and young kids in the neighborhood who will lose sleep? How about keeping athletes out on the fields till 8 o'clock and missing family meals? We hear this is about community. Where is the empathy for the surrounding neighborhood? What about a state-of-the-art theater where students and community can come for music, art, dance, and theater? Couldn't we use more of the performing arts in our lives these days? This would offer students and families drug-free evening events without disturbing the neighbors. What are you teaching your kids and students right now? Their wants are more important than our needs for the quiet tranquility of our neighborhood that we moved into. I get that they want lights, and I would love for them to have lights. But we have to be practical about our wants versus needs. If we all just lived for our wants and disregarded others' needs just to get what we wanted, what kind of world would we live in? Is this what we really want to teach our kids, that their wants are more important than others' needs? Hasn't it been shown the best citizens are those that have compassion and empathy for others?
Thank you very much, Kathy.
I have to say one more thing.
Yeah, if you could just very quickly, thank you very much for speaking. And then Mike Giannini is next, and Adam Littlefield, and Mike Jolly after that.
Thank you, President
Welcome.
Cooper. So, you've heard a lot of this before. Much of this isn't going to be new for you, but I do want to reiterate a couple of points that I feel are very important. The funding is a one-time cost. It's still money you're responsible for. Consider using that money to fund a new building. Create a new space for students and maybe tutors to congregate every Friday night, not just 5 or 6 Friday nights. Bring in TED Talk speakers. Teach the kids about life skills. Think outside the box. Community. So much talk about community. No one denies that it's important. No one is discounting that idea. No one is saying get rid of athletics. We have games now. The community can participate. Bringing the community together does not depend on lights. Soccer and field time. Lights are one solution. Let's really look at what else can be done to help fix this problem without impacting the entire neighborhood. San Ramon Elementary is less than 200 yards from our location. That field could use a new turf. Students could walk across the street and have great availability to a practice field that could be used year-round. It would have tremendous impact not only for the high school, but also for San Ramon. This could come out of that same facilities budget. Wants versus needs. Proponents want lights. They need field time. Let's work together to fix the real issues and not complicate it with a highly controversial project. Academics. This should be your primary focus. I challenge you to show me one athlete that has had an adverse academic experience solely because we don't have field lights. In contrast, I can show you hundreds of folks that will be adversely impacted if the lights project is approved. Be smart and objective. As trustees, you are here to objectively look at all the issues and the downstream consequences of your decisions. Don't throw good money after bad. If the project is approved, the cost will be extensive, and the legal fees will take even more money away from students and teachers. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. All right, Adam Littlefield and then Olivia Redden after Mike Jolly.
Good evening, Board of Trustees and District Office staff. Upon my arrival 6 years ago, I realized that one of my greatest gifts to San Marin would be the gift of building a community. Through the development of programs such as SMART, STEM Marin, Biotechnology Academy, the Sea Academy, AVID, Athletics, our work with equity, and our clubs such as robotics, speech and debate, and mock trial, we have further developed our community. The result of our efforts includes a recent designation of the Golden Ribbon School Award and Exemplary Arts Award. While the work is not complete, you have the opportunity tonight to enhance the San Marin High School community to even greater heights. Shine the light on San Marin. Please vote to approve stadium lights at San Marin High School.
Thank you very much, Adam. Please respect others and please no applause tonight. Mike Jolly and then Ken Levin is next.
Thank you for that applause. San Marin High School is not an island, and no one lives here. We neighbors live here. It is at the beginning of open space. It is a special space, and no place for 8 overwhelming 80-foot light poles, light towers, and 36 more 30-foot poles that'll forever destroy the beauty of this campus and this hillside amphitheater, which has never been violated by artificial lights. And this is a visual assault that'll occur 152 days a year. This stadium project is not just a school issue, it's a community issue, possibly a ballot issue. The school board has a vested institutional bias to favor any school project like this. Most parents and boosters will come for games and leave. We neighbors must live with this stadium. We cannot leave. The 6 project objectives are good goals, but not needed. 5 larger Marin high schools all live without these project objectives. All meet MCAL safety, athletic, and academic rules without any need for lights. This stadium project is a feel-good project, not a needed one. Novato High School will not be getting lights, choosing to be a good neighbor. Novato High School's champion women's lacrosse team shows that lights are not needed for a winning athletics program. What is essential is athlete dedication and spending good money on more good coaching and academics and on college coach outreach programs like camps and video approaches like Scout.com. This will keep our best Novato athletes here at our high schools and get them noticed at college. NUSD spent $200,000 on an EIR that is a dishonest document, with no nighttime photos, no final light study, and no honest biological resources study, which is why Marin Audubon and California Department of Fish and Wildlife both opposed it. How relevant and honest is a document that devoted 12 pages to greenhouse gases, 22 pages to cultural resources, and a scant 2/3 of a page to 4 vital topics: security, parking, crowd and traffic control, and litter removal? Our school board exempted itself by a special legal loophole from all normal civic oversight. It was that normal civic oversight that forced Marin Catholic just 2 weeks ago to pull their Like Stadium project as unreasonable. NUSD's bullying policy is clear. Quote, placing a reasonable person in fear of harm to that person's property, end of quote, is bullying. The threat can be the unintended consequences of a poor decision like this. Claiming that majority benefit overrides the actual harm of another human person's real needs is insensitive, and it's the wrong lesson to teach our students. There is a better solution. A lighted community stadium at a neutral site that both our high schools can and will use, as will other community groups like our Hispanic groups. Let's be right, not rushed in this decision. I beg you.
Thanks, Mike. Olivia, and then Jeff Vance, your third.
My name is Ken Levin. This board is discussing school closures due to budget shortfalls and declining enrollments while evaluating purchasing field lights at a school where 58% failed their state of California standardized math test in 2016. San Marin High needs academic help, not help with athletics. I remind you that your district faces over $60 million in unfunded pension liabilities, and don't expect the state of California to fix this for you. That number is the net present value of your actual liability, which means $60 million is what you need to invest today at a presumed rate of return to meet your future liability. You don't have $60 million to invest, so your real liability is much greater because of interest expense, inflation, and COLA increases, and because these projections for returns on investment commonly used for these types of calculations are optimistic, especially given our low interest rate environment. This is a monetary time bomb, and your district can't escape it. Do you want school closures or field lights? Do you want fully funded pensions or field lights? You can't afford these lights. Jim Hodgeboon told me by email that your board is very concerned about increasing pension costs, which the state, and this is a quote, has decided to fund almost entirely on the backs of school districts. Teachers in our district, especially our high schools, aren't paid competitive salaries relative to other Marin districts. One of my neighbors, a San Marin High graduate who taught at San Marin High, took a job at San Rafael High because of a $25,000 annual salary difference. Now our teachers, who aren't paid as well as teachers in other districts, must prepare for the possibility that pensions won't be paid as promised. It is no wonder that many of our best teachers can't afford to teach in Novato. And now you want to spend over $1 million on field lights for San Marin High? Those lights aren't needed according to your own 2015 staff report. Yes, some of the money will come from private sources. However, the majority of funds are public funds, and the maintenance costs are private. However, 2 weeks ago, you debated how to pay for the sound system. In 2016, your own survey of Novato residents placed field lights at San Marin High School as 16th out of 17 polled priorities. You have to ask how this board sets its priorities when it appears willing to spend money on field lights while academics suffer, teacher salaries are not competitive, and pensions are at risk. Taxpayers deserve more, our students deserve more, our teachers deserve more. Inflation-adjusted wages of high school graduates were 11% higher in the year 2000 and 2010. Underemployment for young college graduates are running at 10 and 20%. In an era when the prospects for young people everywhere are challenged by what author Alvin Toffler calls future shock, our district seeks to set itself apart by investing in field lights rather than the education of its students and the fiscal discipline necessary to attract and retain the best teachers.
Thank you, Mike. Or Ken, I'm sorry. Thanks, Ken.
Okay. Thank you very much. I do hope you vote no.
Olivia, you're next, and then Jeff Fiant after that.
Good evening. My name is Olivia Reedon, and I'm a junior at San Marin High School. And as you may be able to tell, I'm also a member of the San Marin softball team. Tonight, I'm here to talk to you about the benefits of being a student and having lights on the field. To start, I want to mention our biggest fans. That's right, our parents. Having lights has allowed our parents to not have to leave work early. I know this benefited my mother greatly, for she didn't have to leave work to come take me to a game last year when I did not have my license yet. And our team is also composed mostly currently of freshmen and sophomore who do not have their license, and so allowing the parents to be able to continue working has greatly benefited them. I have also been able to maintain a 4.0 GPA each semester at San Marin because we have lights. Last year I was a student who took 8 periods, that's right, 8 periods, and I was in advanced drama for my 8th. That included doing things on weekends as well. Having the time to be able to go home and then work on homework and study for tests before I went to practice allowed me to have a better understanding of the material and pass each of my tests and my classes. And I can tell you that after you go to practice, you're quite tired, and it's really hard to want to get your homework done. There's also an energy. There's this new spark to kids when they're playing under the lights at the field. You may only see it when you're there, but it's something it's only a once-in-a-lifetime thing you really get to experience. You have this new, I guess, drive when you're there, and you're under the lights, and you're enjoying this game so much. And so I would like to thank you for the time to talk.
Thank you, Olivia. So Jeff, hi Jeff. I'm going to combine both of your items because really it's one discussion item. So 3 minutes, and then
Wait, 2
Eric's.
items, I get 6 minutes.
One's nice try. Eric Sutton Beatty is next, if you want to come up. Hi, Jeff.
Mine is a very narrow point of view. I want to talk about item 10D on your agenda, which has to do with policy. It's a draft of the 25th of May, and I understand we'll work on it some more on the 6th of June. I will not be here, so I want to bank that 3 minutes to be able to use it on the 13th of June. In terms of item 10D, specifically item 5 within there, has to do with the uses of the PA system. And I can tell you from practical experience that the language is silent, pun intended, about the PA system for use by non-NUSD people, specifically whether or not they can use the PA system and when. And if they cannot use the PA system, what's the policy when they bring their own speakers and crank them up like they would like to have them? So the policy is lacking there. The second item I signed up to talk about was item F2, which has to do with the funding of the sound system. And I'm afraid, Mr. Millerick, you read my notes, but thank you very much. $250,000 is a big chunk of change to spend on a sound system. In fact, it's 10 times the cost that was spent at Novato High School only a few years ago when there was an attempt to upgrade that system, which Trustee Mack referred to. It seems to me as a minimum, if you're going to do anything, the standard should be the same throughout. Therefore, you need to apply the specs, the standards for San Marin High School to standards at Novato High School. Failure to do so, it's disruption to the neighborhood. Finally, as a person who sits on the Bond Implementation Committee, thank you very much for the appointment, I question the use of Prop G funds for the sound system. Thank you.
Thank you, Jeff. Eric Sutton Beatty, Christina Warchalski, and Payam Ravanfor, and Jacob Kennedy. Those will be the next 3. Welcome, Eric.
All right, thank you. By way of introduction, I'm a 22-year resident on San Ramon Way. I had a daughter graduate from Novato High School and a son graduate from San Marin High School. My wife and I have been members of PTAs. I served on the board of Nevada Human Needs as president and treasurer for 13 years. And my wife and I were co-presidents of a youth swim team for 7 years. I note all this because I want you to understand that I have always actively cared about this community and our students. This proposal would impose on more than 200 homes with families surrounding the field with an increased and increasing level of noise for 152 days per year. This is not Friday night lights, it's Monday through Friday night lights and noise. Some of these nights proposed would include the weeks of holidays, such as Thanksgiving, and the end of the year religious holidays, such as Christmas. Consider the residents, the majority of whom are working. Many have families with young children. Some have medical conditions. These families would be subjected to noise level extended to 8 o'clock Monday through Wednesday, later on Thursday, and as late as 9:45 on Friday nights. Then, add this, Saturday and Sunday mornings around 7:30 or 8, the day games begin, and more noise for most of the day. Many residents have lived in their homes, raised families, and supported the schools for decades, whereas some are new to the area. Nevertheless, these residents deserve the quiet time with their families after a long day at school and/or a hard day at work. I'm sure I'm not the only one who has gotten more tired as the work week goes on, yet under this proposal, the lights and noise would continue later as the week progresses, when you need more time to relax and recuperate. This area is fairly densely populated and has homes in very close proximity to the school. Even the EIR considers this a densely populated area. As most of you know, Nevada High School voted down stadium lights for the same reason: too much noise and activity for the residents surrounding their stadium. Why San Marin? I'll move on to my second point. This proposal for San Marin is based on the expressed desire to improve the student athletes' academic performance through allowing them to remain in class and practice their sports into the evening. Under this proposal, one high school would have lights and practice fields, the other would not. The Novato High student athletes would have to miss class time for practices, while San Marin student athletes would not. The student athletes at San Marin are therefore being given an advantage over those at Novato High School. By voting for this proposal, you would agree to placing Novato High student athletes at an academic and athletic disadvantage. In my opinion, this is simply and fundamentally not fair. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming, Eric, and your comments. Christina Wachowski, I hope I'm pronouncing that okay, and then Payam Ravan-Far, and then Ben Philpott. Welcome. Sorry about that.
Good evening, trustees. My family asks you to vote against approval of the Stadium Lights project. These lights are not in the best interests of our community. While the romantic notion of Friday night lights is part of what is driving the desire for the lights, the surrounding neighborhoods will be significantly negatively impacted in ways which the lights proponents either refuse to acknowledge or demean as selfish concerns. The way it is now. At night, our neighborhood is peaceful and quiet. There are a handful of dim street lights, but otherwise it's dark. Open space surrounds the area. You can stand in your yard and look up at the stars, and you can even see planets. It's so quiet, you can hear the owls and the turkeys behind our house. You can leave the windows open at night and not worry that you'll be awakened by loud noises. Anyone in San Marin can clearly see the beautiful, unobstructed views of Mount Burdell and Little Mountain rising up behind San Marin High. You can't assign a price or a value to that kind of natural beauty. That's why many of us live here. What our neighborhoods worry will happen, based on reports from other communities who have put stadium lights in where there are homes close by, are the following things. Visualize up to 44 metal poles, 8 of which are 4 stories high. Picture those towering metal stanchions blocking everybody's hill views. No one has used the word ugly, but that's what it will be. A resident of another community with stadium lights said, "It looks like a spaceship landed in our neighborhood." Visualize bright glare and sky glow from the lights, taking the natural nighttime away and replacing it with a bluish-tinged artificial LED night. Visualize lights shining directly into people's homes, lights they can't turn off. Imagine coming home from work and just wanting to relax. Imagine noise that is loud enough to hear inside your house with the doors and the windows shut. Noise the environmental impact report said could not be mitigated. Picture the traffic, parking problems, and public safety issues that always come with increased field usage and game attendance. Why are all of these significant concerns rejected and caricatured as NIMBY issues when they are concrete, real-life consequences to the lights? When confronted with an almost identical stadium lights proposal at Marin Catholic High, county planners who are tasked with protecting the community from bad planning decisions rejected it because the project was out of character with the surrounding community. In support of their decision, the planners cited the very concerns I've just outlined. Our state government code exemption allows NUSD to ignore the community's concerns regarding the damage to the surrounding neighborhoods. We ask you, as neighbors and fellow citizens, how would you feel if the quiet peace and enjoyment of your home was going to be forever changed? And for something a relatively small number of residents want but don't actually need. What we need are more playing fields. The City of Nevada reached that conclusion in the 2015 Fields Needs Assessment Study.
Thank you, Christina. Appreciate your comments.
Let's actually do some fields, get some fields together for everyone.
Thank you.
Don't shout me down. I have a right to my voice.
please. Pam, is that, oh, good, you're here. Welcome. Let's please respect everybody's opinion here. Yes, welcome.
Good evening, trustees and Mr. President. Thank you for letting me speak tonight. My name is Jacob Kennedy, and I'm part of the San Marin soccer program. As you probably have heard, soccer has moved to the winter and daylight has become scarce. This causes a conflict between school and outdoor sports. Academics is very important to me and all the San Marin student athletes. This year, I'm taking 3 AP courses, and they have all been very rigorous. I've had to leave school early to get to games on multiple occasions, and that has made me lose some valuable class time. Between my 6th and 7th period classes, I've lost about an hour and a half worth of school time a week. My teachers really do not like this, and it leaves them in a tough situation to do their jobs properly. As much as I value academics, I also want to represent my school through athletics. Hope this problem can be resolved through the approval of the Lights Project. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Payam Ravanfar. I'm a junior here at San Marin, and I play for the varsity soccer and football team. And I know how much the school appreciates sports, and adding lights would only bring positivity and good vibes to the community. Friday night football, soccer, and lacrosse games are a fun and safe event for students at this school, so we want to see it happen. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Ben Philpott, and then, go ahead, thanks. And then, hold on, Ben. And then Marco DeMare and Colin Hickey. Those will be the next 3. Hi, Ben.
Good evening. Thank you, Mr. President and trustees, for letting me speak tonight. In addition to all the other points that have been said, and I'm sure the ones that have yet to be shared, I wanted to try and answer the broad question of why we're here today addressing the issue of lights. I think there are 3 general reasons why people are here. Some are here for personal interest and support for the lights. They're represented by students and parents who want to play in the spotlight, attend a night game, and miss less class. Some are here for personal interests in opposition for the lights. They're represented by local neighbors who feel the project will impact them negatively, ranging from real estate values to noise. Some of us are here for no personal benefit of all. This includes some of these students who will graduate before these lights are put up. It includes myself and all of you trustees as well. Like you have recently experienced, the installation of lights will extend my workday with no increase in pay or compensation. We are not here for personal benefit. We are here because we care about our students, both present and future. This is our call to action. It is why I became a teacher. It is why you ran for a school board position. And most importantly, it was why you were elected by this community to do what is best for the students. As well as caring for our students, you have done your due diligence through the EIR process and neighborhood meetings, made tremendous cuts to lighting and PA system usage in comparison to other schools. This on top of having proposed a state-of-the-art lighting system and an upgraded PA system. None of this was required of you. You have shown that you are considerate to those whom we share space with. Still, undoubtedly, you will hear from a minority that you are doing it wrong, or what you're doing is wrong. You've heard it already, but if doing what is best for our students is wrong in someone else's eyes, I don't want to be right. I hope that you would all agree with me. If so, please vote yes for the proposed Lights project. Thank you again for your time.
All right, Marco DeMare, and then our third one will be Colin Hickey. Sorry, Colin is next, and then Terry Winfrey will be after that. Welcome. And please remember, no applause. Thanks.
Hi, my name is Marco Damari. I am a junior on the San Marin. I'm a junior, and I'm on the San Marin varsity track team. During the track season, practice is shared with both JV and varsity girls and boys lacrosse teams. When there is a lacrosse game, we are limited to a side of the track, or practice is canceled due to safety reasons of flying lacrosse balls. In track, we run on the outskirts of the field for our running events and on the field for our field events. As you can see, that is a lot of practice missed or canceled when we have to share the field. If we get these lights, the track team would be able to utilize the entire field safely, before lacrosse practices or has games. The ultimate goal is to allow us to have practice time without being interrupted and safety for my teammates. Thank you, and please vote for the lights for San Marin.
Thank you very much, Colin Hickey. And then our next one will be Cole Weber, the third one.
Hello, my name's Colin. I have two main reasons why I want the lights here. My first one is I actually got the opportunity to play under lights on Friday nights, and it's an unreal experience. Everyone comes out, all the kids, all the parents seem to have a good time, and playing under it's just so much cooler than playing it in the heat at 2 o'clock. And that brings my second point up. Playing under the heat, here on a 2 o'clock, maybe about 90 degrees, it can get up to that, maybe 100, and there's a significant increase in heat when you're on the turf. It gets really hot. I've actually had friends, teammates who have suffered heat stroke and had to watch them be carted off through an ambulance. So this is the reasons why I would like lights here at San Marin. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Colin. Terry Winfrey, and then followed by Cole Weber, and then Samuel Greenville.
Good evening.
Welcome.
My name is Terry Winfrey. I live right directly across the street on San Marin Drive, 50-yard line, ground zero. Been there for about 9 years. I love the sounds of kids playing Saturdays, Sunday mornings. I'm all for the lights. I just can't see it being that big of an issue, but that's me. We do live in a beautiful community. Let's light it up.
All right, Cole Weber. Cole, welcome. Everybody, please respect, both sides are trying to be very, very respectful, I know, but really let's pay extra attention. Let's listen to the speakers and respect both sides. Thank you. We really would appreciate that. Cole, welcome.
Hi, my name is Cole Weber, and I'm a senior here at San Marin High School. I've played both lacrosse and football here for 4 years now, and while I will never be able to use the lights here, I do understand from firsthand experience the benefit they bring to San Marin student athletes like myself. During the lacrosse season, we have JV and varsity, boys and girls lacrosse, all sharing the field at the same time, while the track team uses the track. As a result, each team only gets to use a quarter of the field, and the track team ends up getting pegged with lacrosse balls. Not only is this a safety hazard, but it also puts us at a disadvantage during games, as we never have the opportunity to utilize the full field and practice our sport the way it actually gets played. When the girls lacrosse team has a home game, we often have to skip practice or practice on the blacktop because there simply isn't enough daylight to reschedule our practice to after their game. Right now, we have a beautiful field being underutilized because our sports teams just don't have enough daylight to all use it. Regardless of the decision tonight, I'll never be able to use the lights, but I do understand the benefit they bring to the San Marin athletic program, and I hope to see future San Marin student athletes using the field to its full potential. Thank you.
Samuel, Jimena, Laura, and then Marianne Anderson, please.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Sam Greenville. I'm a senior here at San Marin and currently the Associated Student Body President. I've been living in Novato for 5 years and have been playing football at San Marin for 4. I'm in full support of the lights on the football field for San Marin. Lights on the field would be extremely beneficial for this school and community. Over the last 4 years, some of the greatest moments in my high school career have been here in this gymnasium during basketball games. You may ask why, but it comes down to one simple thing. Those games with my peers and I together gave me a sense of community and school pride. I believe that if we get the field lights, that we could spread the sense of community and Mustang pride throughout just not San Marin High School, but the whole community. Some might say that lights may create trouble for the community, but I respectfully disagree. Gathering together for night games for any sport would have us under the watchful eye of not only San Marin staff, but also our friends and family. My dad always talks about the glory days when he played football on Friday nights in Texas, and I hope to one day come home from college or whatever future lies ahead of me and to see the whole town gathered on Friday nights rooting for our Mustangs. No matter the outcome, I respect the decision of the board members and believe that both co-athletic directors, Mr. Davis and Mr. Pitti, should receive a huge ovation for all their efforts. Thank you very much. I hope you all have a good night.
Thank you very much. Now we're on to Jimena, Lara, and Mary Ann is next, and Sammy Anderson will follow.
My
Hi.
name is Jimena Lara, and I'm a sophomore here at San Marin. I've played on San Marin girls varsity soccer for 2 seasons now. I support the Lights because I know it would benefit the soccer program in so many ways. First off, with school starting later next year, practices will be moved to a later time. Having the Lights not only could allow us to go home and come back for a later practice time, but it can help more teams use the field. The turf field is always booked because there are so many different sports teams that need to use it. Having Lights will help every team get a chance to practice on the field since we would not have to worry about daylight. When teams aren't able to practice on the turf field, it's difficult to improve. Having Lights would also mean I wouldn't have to miss class time, and valuable class time means a lot to me. This could also bring the community together. The soccer games don't usually get big crowds to come cheer us on. Having Lights will allow students and parents to come after work or other commitments they might have. My parents can't always make it to my games due to their busy schedules, and having them cheer my team on is very important to me. Therefore, this could allow the community to come together and support the soccer program. We're really hoping to get Lights approved because it will help the school become more united and can benefit all sports programs. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Mary Ann Anderson, Sammy Anderson, and Camille
Hello.
Obent.
My name, go ahead.
Sorry, I apologize.
My name is Mary Ann Anderson. I am a longtime Novato resident. As a matter of fact, I've lived in Novato since the early 50s, 1952. I went to Grant Street School, I went to Lou Sutton School, Hill School, and Novato High School, my sisters and I. I was lucky enough to get married here in Novato. We bought a home here, and we raised our family here in Novato. Our children are now grown up and fortunate enough to live in our beautiful community and raise their family here in Novato. I urge all of you to not only think about the students here at San Marin, but the future students and the future of Novato. We need these Lights, and this is the right time to do it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Sammy Anderson. And then Keith Parker, if you could come up. Hi.
Hi, my name is Sammy Anderson, and I'm a junior here at San Marin. I'm also on the varsity cheerleading team. Tonight I'm reading a letter from Joe Elwood, the athletic director of Annalee High School in Sebastopol. It is hard to express how important having our stadium lighted has been for us here at Annalee. I believe many people take it for granted, being we've always had lights. Our original lights were installed in 1950, making Carlson Field one of the oldest lighted high school stadiums around. With that said, it would be virtually impossible for us to offer the quality programs we do without a lighted stadium. Winter soccer would be the most problematic. As you know, it is very difficult to get into soccer games without lights when these days are short during the winter months, let alone trying to have 4 teams practice before it gets dark. The most evident benefit of having our lighted stadium would be Friday night football games. As most football enthusiasts will attest, there is nothing like Friday night lights. In a community like ours, it brings community members in direct contact with the large majority of our student body, creating the school-to-community connection we so often strive for. You just don't get that with Saturday afternoon games. I am positive our school culture would greatly suffer without Friday night football in the fall. In the early season, we are faced with the extreme temperature of late summer and early fall. Playing games later in the evening would certainly help to mitigate the health and safety concerns that come with the hot days of August and September. Weekend family obligations need to be considered as well. I know our families would be very upset if high school football games were being played on Saturday afternoons, forcing family members to choose between high school games and other youth sport activities that are normally played on Saturdays. Lastly, our lights and the all-weather field has allowed us to generate thousands of dollars per year in revenue earmarked for maintenance and future replacement costs associated with the field and stadium. A lighted stadium is part of our school culture here in Sebastopol, and I truly believe that all high schools should have a lighted stadium to benefit the student body and community at large. I've been associated with high school athletics for over 30 years and believe that the benefits that come with the lighted stadium far outweigh any explicit or implicit costs associated with the lights. With proper supervision and planning, there are few things better than evening events under the lights. Thank you.
Thanks, Sammy. Camille, and followed by Keith Parker and Larry Scheibel, please. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Camille, and I'm a junior at San Marin. I'm also on the varsity cheer team, and I'm going to be reading a letter from Tim Galley, the athletic director at San Rafael High School. So, the advantage of a lighted facility. A lighted athletic facility on a high school campus offers a broad range of advantages. Some of these advantages are obvious, while other benefits are subtle. This is an effort to summarize both categories. The funding provided to operate a comprehensive athletic program often falls short of what is required. A lighted athletic facility greatly enhances the athletic income stream, reducing the impact on general fund and site facility dollars. General ticket sales, concession sales, spiritware, and ancillary income historically increases by more than 60% when athletic events are held in a lighted venue, while costs to operate in the evening are comparable to those events held on Saturday afternoon. A lighted facility is a gathering place for both the high school and the surrounding community. When events are held at a time when parents and other interested patrons can attend, the sense of community is greatly enhanced. Community pride in the facility, the school, and the young people who are seen at these events, both as participants and as spectators, is a demonstration of all the good things that can happen in a high school. With the transition to winter soccer, this positive opportunity is further expanded to encompass another segment of the school and local community. A lighted facility expands the athletic day. No longer are we limited by the available daylight. Football practice, which in 2018 will begin in July, can be shifted to the cooler hours of the later evening, thus reducing the potential effects of heat-related injuries. A creative football coach can hold one evening practice per week to allow students the opportunity to visit with teachers or to attend school or dental and doctor appointments. During the winter and spring sessions of sport, the impact in lost class time is dramatically reduced. Soccer matches will no longer begin at 3 p.m., with athletes having to be dismissed from their classes, sometimes as early as 60 to 120 minutes before the match event. A creative athletic program can utilize the time between the school dismissal and the match time to organize study halls for their athletes, thus improving their academic performance. The same advantages will be reflected in the spring with lacrosse and track and field. The longer athletic day also expands the qualified coaching pool. Coaches who previously may have not been available to your program to hire because of obligations elsewhere may now commute and can coach at your site when practice and events can be held at a later time. Later start times also reduce the impact on site staff, who are often caught managing events while school is still in session. The traffic and parking demands at the school site are also reduced. School has long dismissed, and after the school traffic dispersed, long before the traffic begins to arrive. Very few issues are either 100% positive or negative. However, the case for a lighted athletic facility is far stronger than the case against. Your school and your community will come to love this facility and the events that are housed therein. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Camille. Keith Parker, followed by Larry, and then Karen Fremantle, you'll be next.
Good evening, and I'd like to thank you for your patience in listening to all of us who come to express our opinion. I want to talk about the horrors of this project. Massive excavation to install monumental towers, put lights on might disturb Native American archaeology. Massive disruption of wildlife from migratory birds to owls hunting rodents. Night lights washing out the sunset and views of Mount Burdell. Noise that will keep all the neighbors from sleeping. And worst of all, this entire project isn't needed. I think this pretty much sums up the opposition to this project. And some of these folks are friends of mine, so it's a little bit tough to see the emotions in people who really don't want this to come up and speak for it, knowing that they're listening to me. Where was the concern when the heavy equipment moved hundreds of cubic yards of dirt to install the drainage in the turf field? I didn't hear anything about it. I saw nothing in any of the papers. At least two who espoused the concern of lights impacting wildlife at the last EIR meeting also suggested an alternative site, specifically IVC. Wouldn't lights in that dark environment right next to the open space be worse than here? Night lights wash out the sunset and Mount Burdell. The technology of modern lighting and the over-restrictive hours of use directly addressed in the EIR rightfully determined this is not a problem. The noise will be there, that is for sure. That is the one concern that is definitely legitimate. But it is not that significant. The EIR missed the lights we use late fall, winter, and early spring. How often are windows open or people on their decks after sunset those times of the year? The only people, with maybe a few exceptions that you count on one hand, who say the project is not needed are non-student, non-athlete households residing in the immediate neighborhood. The school staff, and most particularly the students, have given absolutely unbelievable evidence of the need for this project. The only alternative to those opposed seems to be no, you can do nothing. If these concerns had merit, the opposition could quote neighbor complaints from other communities with high school lights, but they don't have them because they don't exist. But most informative was the students listing the percentage of high schools with field lights. I believe they listed all the counties north of Tehachapi's with the exception of San Francisco, and they all range from 80 to 100%. Here in Marin County, we're under 30%. That includes Tomales High School. As a lifelong Marin County resident, I was embarrassed by that fact. You are elected to do what is best for the students of NUSD. The evidence is clear. There is a need for this valuable project with very minimal impact to the neighbors. And those of us who support it do understand the impacts, and we do believe that once this project goes through, they will find it will not be the horror that they're looking at right now. I can guarantee you that if this doesn't go through, as they've said, if it does go through, they'll remember the next election. If it doesn't go through, there's going to be exponentially more voters that will remember if it doesn't go through. Thank you.
Larry, Larry, you're next. Larry Scheibel, Karen Fremantle, and Steve Murphy, if you could come up. Hi, Larry.
Good evening. My name is Larry Scheibel. As trustees of this district, you were elected by the people of Novato to be their representatives in overseeing the operations of the school district. During the discussion about stadium lighting, much has been made about an online petition signed by 1,000 people to install the lights. I think you should be far more concerned about what the other 98% of the population think about this. And I believe you already know the answer to that. Prior to the Measure G ballot proposal, you had a consultant poll the people of Novato to find out which of 17 proposed projects they would support. 3 of the proposed 17 projects involve sports facilities, including artificial turf playing fields, stadium lighting, and a swimming pool. These 3 ended up at the bottom of the general public's priorities and received essentially 0 support. The excuse that I have heard for this is that the people just don't understand. But what they hear about are roofs that have leaked for years, bathroom facilities that don't work and can't be fixed, classrooms that don't have air conditioning, and teachers who are paid thousands of dollars less than in surrounding districts. What they see are multi-million-dollar artificial turf playing fields being constructed at the schools, millions of dollars in stadium improvements, and now you are talking about installing lights at this football stadium. I think they understand very well. They want the tax dollars you take from them spent on education and educational facilities and not on recreation. I hope you will listen to the opinions of the overwhelming majority of Novato citizens whose interests you were elected to represent and will not approve this expensive and unnecessary project. Thank you.
Thank you very much for coming. Could Roman Wonk please come up to the front? Hi, Karen.
Good evening. I am a member of this community, tax-paying, home-owning member of this community, and have been for many years. Long enough to tell you that this lights whole thing has been going on since I was in high school, and we tried, and we failed. And I want to say to you tonight, I am for the lights. I am a hornet in favor of lights at San Marin High School. I am also a teacher in this community, and I recognize that, yes, I do wish we made more. I also recognize that all of our funding cannot be allocated in the ways that we always choose for it to be. I recognize that there is funding for facilities. I recognize that this is one of those times. In my classroom, I teach my students every day academic and life skills, including how to have a growth mindset. I'm so grateful for the opportunity that Novato has taken to show our children and students that persistence and compromise, of which there has been, hopefully pays off. And I also feel that the learning opportunities continue. I hope that we, as parents, coaches, teachers, and students, will have the opportunity to recognize this for the opportunity and privilege that it will be. I hope that we will respect and teach our athletes and children to respect the guidelines and compromises you have made, set up to help the neighbors. I hope that we don't, any of us, feel that we are above the rules that have been set up. I hope we take ownership of our responsibility and our collective behavior by cleaning up after ourselves and others when necessary. Now, we will lead by example in our respect and behavior to continue to show our kids how a community truly pulls together to do good and be kind. I hope you will vote tonight to give us that opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you. Steve, and then, one sec, Steve. Dan Spillard, if you would come up, please. All right. Hi, Steve.
Good evening. First off, I'd like just to thank Rincon and Associates for pointing out a glaring problem with your EIR, and that's noise. In your own EIR, it says you cannot mitigate noise. I'm sure you all received one of these in the mail. No train horns. I'm going to read from this pamphlet. The SMART train comes to Marin, and so are quiet zones. Responding to community concerns about noise, the San Rafael and Novato City Councils have established quiet zones. So I guess the people living next to the trains, they have rights to have nice quiet places to live. I live right behind this field here, the old practice field that is underutilized. I see practicing ending at 4:30. I have a view of it from my living room. I'm on the gate, right there. That field goes unused more than it's used. I've heard excuses about it's unsafe, nobody can use it, it's rented by the Park and Rec to outside groups. I've seen every sport here use that field since it was deemed unsafe by the head of Park and Rec. So I guess since Marin Catholic's out of the running, MCAL will have to find somebody else to fund their 4 fields. So is Novato High going to be next? Because they figure they have one here with San Marin. It's going to be Novato next. I don't think you're going to get the rest of the county. And San Marin has, Marin Catholic has more money than God. And lawyers, alumni that went there. And they turned it down. So I urge you to do the same thing and respect the neighborhood in this beautiful amphitheater we live in. I'd really like to have you vote no on this. Or put it to the voters of Novato, just like the Hamilton project 2 ballot measures ago was put forth. And that was supposed to be paid for by outside funds. But I guess they didn't want it in their neighborhood, and they put it to the vote of the citizens of Novato, the voters of Novato, I should say, and they turned it down. So I urge you to do the same. Thank you.
Thank you, Steve. Roman, you're next, and then George Pegalo, if you could come up. Hi.
Thank you. My name is Roman Woke. I'm a resident of Novato. My son goes to Rancho Elementary and is involved in local sports. I'm an acoustical consultant specializing in One of my specialties is environmental noise with over 10 years of experience in projects locally and across the country. I have no financial interest on either side of this issue, just to be clear, and I don't live near the school, but just want to make sure the public is aware of some key facts here. The EIR states that the proposed project will result in significant and unavoidable noise impacts. We've all established that. I agree with that finding, and in my experience, such impacts occur whenever there are improper land use adjacencies. That's unfortunate. The EIR uses one special document to establish one of the key noise impact thresholds. That's the City of Novato Noise Ordinance. That's law. That threshold is 55 dBA for no more than 3 minutes in any hour. Again, that's law. The EIR explains that sound barrier walls are not effective or practical mitigation in this case. I very much agree with that. And therefore relies on design of the PA system to reduce noise exposure, but clearly states that this threshold may not be achievable even with the best available PA system mitigation, the state of the art. And furthermore, clearly states that crowd noise would unavoidably exceed the 55 dBA threshold. There is in fact statements in this very meeting agenda on the NUSD website that compliance with the 55 dBA threshold, which is required by the noise ordinance, will be done only to the extent possible. By approving this project, you are unavoidably violating the Novato Noise Ordinance. This translates to selective compliance with the law. I work day in and day out on projects locally and across the country to help commercial developers, hospitals, educational institutions, and many other facilities comply with local noise ordinances. These are the laws of the land, and in my experience are non-negotiable. Why is the Novato Unified School District any different, and why do they feel that local laws do not apply to them? Thank you.
Thank you, Roman. Dan Spillard, and then Bo Thompson, if you could come up. Hi.
Good evening. I'm Dan Spillard. I am a resident of Novato, relatively new resident. And let me start by saying, as I look around this facility, what I see is a school with a tremendous amount of spirit. If you look in this auditorium, you can see just a great dedication to the sports program. The civic-minded students that have attended tonight clearly are very passionate about their sports programs here, not just here at this school, but I think at Novato as well. There's a real strong sense of sport and the importance of athletics as part of an overall high school experience for our students. And I think that's highly commendable. I see many, many different kind of athletic opportunities provided by our students. I see them playing with well-funded and good quality equipment on good quality fields. And I see a real solid commitment by this district to support the athletic endeavors of our students in this district. I guess I start out by saying that because as a relatively new resident of Novato, when I was trying to decide where in the Bay Area I was going to move to, aside from the fact that I absolutely love Marin and have for decades, I spent time touring schools. I've looked at schools on the East Bay, I've looked at schools in the Peninsula, and I've looked at schools here in Novato. And while I see a well-supported and well-funded athletic program, just here on this campus, I see water-damaged doors, peeling paint, temporary buildings. My daughter goes to school here in Novato in buildings that have water in classrooms, in rooms that can't keep proper temperatures during class time with heating and cooling issues. She has to walk to class without having any cover when it rains here. Major problem this year. So I have to ask myself, what's really going on when you're talking about spending facilities money for an already well-supported and well-funded athletic program when I, from my own eyes, can walk on this campus, I can walk in Novato's campus, and I compare that to other high schools in the Bay Area, and I don't see the physical issues in other schools that I see here. Certainly when someone's thinking of moving to this community and they come to this school, visually the buildings are going to stand out to say, does this school invest in itself? Does it create a positive, current, well-funded academic environment? And I have to tell you that while I love the students the students and the teachers that I've met here, there have been real concerns of mine about how this district is allocating its funds, even for buildings. I would like to close by reading the following. Novato Unified School District is an innovative and effective educational system that provides diverse academic experiences to meet individual student needs and challenge students to realize their educational potential. And I advise you to vote with that in mind tonight. Thank you.
Thanks, Dan. George, and then Thomas Turkey, if you could come up, please.
My name is George Pegalo. I've served for many years on the Nevada Unified School District's Advisory Committee. I was also a member of the Athletics Advisory Committee, and for over 20 years, I've worked with this district to support student welfare and success. Prior to coming to Marin County, I was on the faculty of Stanford University, where I was in charge of the largest martial arts program on the West Coast, Shaolin Chuan Fa. And during that period of time, I also taught members of the Stanford varsity football team, varsity basketball, swimming, tennis, and many other varsity sports, advanced skills that were derived from martial arts. I was also hired as a special skills coach by Bill Walsh during the Walsh era, when they were actually winning games and actually winning Super Bowls. I believe the lights are an important adjunct to a very powerful academic program. It is overwhelmingly true, evidence is overwhelming, that when students are involved in something that connects them to their school, be it an academic issue or sports, they succeed at a much greater rate than students who don't feel strongly connected to one thing. So athletics are very important to connect young people to what's going on at San Marin High School. Young people who might say, screw it, there's no real athletics here. I don't give a damn about academics, so I'm just going to lay low, move through, not succeed. Success is what this place is about, and lights will enhance that. It will increase the opportunity for students to practice and to compete because of the extended hours that this facility will be available. So to me, it's a no-brainer. We need the lights to make this a more successful program for every student at this school, and for those students who come to play games from other schools, playing under the lights will be a very impressive and important and memorable experience. So I say, let there be light.
Thank you, George. Bo, and then Eduardo Morales, would you please come up? Hi, you're up.
All right. Before I begin, a quick shout out here to 65 here on the bleachers. I want to thank you for your leadership, keeping the crowd in control. We have many opinions, but thank you for standing up. It's always easy to say what everybody agrees with, and I guess I'm not going to do that here. I've mentioned before when I've stood before you, I'm part of San Marin history. I brought my Dead Tree edition of Montura. Back in the day, this is the only edition you could get. When I graduated, San Marin was at the cutting edge of technology. Thanks to the efforts of Helen Joseph, Al Berti, Tom Zecklin, and many more, these efforts thrust San Marin right to the front, right? In the intervening years, I don't see that too much anymore. Not to say that you haven't tried, but I think you need to try a little bit more. Looking at the San Marin High School Wikipedia article, yeah, there's that unsavory article about let's get past that. But from my point of view, extracurricular activities, that section is 4 times as long as your curriculum section. So that gets to the heart of my issue, okay? It's popular, talking about running government like a business. So to do that, let's look at some core competencies. In this capitalist system, your charter is to bring these people, these young students, to giving them the best possible career, most productive career possible options, in preferably a, what shall we say, high-paying and otherwise a rewarding job. And with limited resources, yeah, you've got to make decisions. And I agree, a well-rounded education is important, but the spend really should be commensurate with the benefit, right? So, of course, we've got during the class hours PE, but the notion that we're about to spend $1.56 million on what essentially amounts to extracurricular activity, how are we going to do that when we're hearing Nancy presenting earlier in the year about a budget deficit, right? Have we got that money? Really, shouldn't we, as we heard, be putting this money into teachers, into facilities, into other things that really help the students academically? So, what would a business do? This is maybe a little controversial. Divest? Spin off? The purported benefits of sports are not something only Novato Unified School District can provide. My daughters do gymnastics. They do North Marin United Soccer. Neither of these are part of your jurisdiction, and I don't think they have to. Whoop. All right, well, more to be said, but let's respect
Thank you, Bo,
the time. Thank you.
for spending the time to come. Next is Thomas Twerkate. Oh. Bo, I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Your seat. Welcome. And then if Nina Zito would come up, please. Okay. Bo, we're all ears.
Hi, I'm Bo Thompson. I'm a junior here at San Marin. I play baseball and basketball, and I played football freshman and sophomore year. And I'll try to bring this across quickly. I love sports. I have for all my life. I've always dreamed of playing some sort of professional sport. At one time, I was convinced I was going to play basketball for Duke. As a kid, you have big ambitions. I know now I most likely won't play a professional sport, and I'll most likely be done with sports after high school. And that sucks to think about. I was fortunate enough to play baseball at Alberts Park this year under the lights, and it gave me a glimpse of what it's like to play in the big leagues, under the lights. Hundreds of people watching, all focused on you and your team. It made me feel like I lived up to my 8-year-old self's dream, and it was a special feeling. What I'm trying to say is I'll probably never get that again. But allowing San Marin to have lights will give that feeling to thousands of kids in the future. So, are you going to stop kids' dreams just because your views altered the tiniest bit? Come on, think of the kids. Thank you.
Thanks, Bo. Eduardo Morales, and then if Madison Spillard would come up, please.
My name is Eduardo Morales, and I am the president of Boosters here at San Marin. I'd like to start by saying thank you for your leadership and your strong commitment to improving our school facilities and the educational well-being of our students. Your hard work and determination to provide a better future for our kids and our community does not go unrecognized. We cannot undo the negative effect of the past on our students and community by the opposition of the few. But today, we can create a new and positive future for our students with your courage and leadership and the support of this community. On the agenda tonight, Trustee Cooper, Section F, point number 5, initial financial commitment, it says, the district will move forward with planning, which includes a financial commitment of approximately $100,000 for an architect, a structural and electrical engineers, and soils testing consultant. Funding will be split between district and San Marin all sports boosters. Well, on behalf of the volunteers who have invested selflessly to this effort and the families of San Marin High and the students and future leaders of this community, I would like to present you with a check on the amount of $50,000 to get started. There it is. This check represents the commitment to support this great effort and the partnership of volunteers and families at San Marin. May I bring this check to you? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next is Nina Zito, and if Dominic Grassi would come up next, that would be great. Hi, Nina.
So much for debate, but so my name is Madison Spillard. I am a proud sophomore at Novato High School. I'm a Hornet. I've maintained a 4.0 throughout my freshman year, my sophomore year, and I really hope to bring an unbiased opinion on this situation. I'm a transfer from out of state and had the opportunity to choose between San Marin and Novato High School, and Novato was my blatant decision due to its economic superiority. It was blatant that Novato would secure my academic success, and San Marin, I felt like I would be putting that at risk. The campus itself seemed unkept and quite dingy, and honestly, when I heard that you were considering putting such large sums of money into an extreme luxury such as 80-foot football lights, it really made me think, why can't you put that maybe into a paint job or permanent buildings or simple things like that which would keep me out of the rain during school. My team's lacrosse team, women's lacrosse team, as mentioned before, has been dominating recently, even without football lights. And don't get me wrong, not everyone can balance academics and sports, and every student is unique. Some people can do it, and it's amazing, but some people just can't. And that expectation to be placed on students is, well, weird. But really what I'm trying to say is that when I saw the lack of AP classes, the lack of foreign language opportunities, and the lack of upkeep at this school, the lack of school tutoring and academic integrity, I just really want you to think of transfer students like me who are academically inclined and striving to have a future who will see your school putting funds into such extremities as 80-foot lights and not furthering our academic opportunities and ensuring my generation a happier future. Thank you.
Thank you, Nina. Madison Spillard, and then Dominic, you're next. Is Madison here? I don't see Madison. So Dominic, you're up. Welcome. Sorry? Oh, okay, sorry. Dominic?
Hi, good evening. My name is Dominic Grassi. I was born and raised in Novato, and I still make my home living here, working in this great town. But as a young child, we would take our Friday nights and we would actually drive to Petaluma and watch football games. It was something our whole family could do. We didn't have Saturdays, that opportunity to do that. So it was a great family experience where the whole community came together, and I'll never forget those times. So this is an opportunity, I believe, in this town for the first time to bring lights, to give these opportunities to all the young kids that are growing up and watching these older players out on the field. That's what got me to want to play sports, kept me involved in school. We've heard a lot of people talk about academics and say that the sports aren't tied to academics. I totally disagree with that. I think it keeps kids' heads in school, and that's important. And so I think it's really important that we focus on the opportunities that are coming, with that $50,000 check, your seed money to get this started. It's a community, and it's for families, and that's something that we need to remember. Entire families go to these games. It's not just the young kids, it's not just the high school kids, but it keeps them out of trouble because their families are there with them. And I think that's the most important part of this for me, is recognizing that it benefits the whole community because it benefits the entire family. So I hope that you guys won't miss this opportunity and you will vote to bring the lights to San Marin. Thanks.
Thank you, Dominic. Michelle Ganuccio, if I'm pronouncing that correctly, and then Michael Kelly is the last speaker of the night. Hi, Michelle.
Hello. Okay.
I grew up in this town and now live about a block away from Sam Marin. I went to Sam Marin. I loved going to the football games, and it brought the whole school together. Mr. Jolly, I saw your son out there playing football for many years. Now I have a fourth grader who, before I know it, will be at Sam Marin. Her favorite sport is softball and looks forward to the day that she can play under the lights. We come watch almost every Sam Marin game because it adds to the thrill of the game. I have never seen any issues arise at the Sam Marin softball field. The only thing that you hear is people cheering and enjoying themselves. This is a good representation of what happens at a lit field. The kids in Novato deserve a place to go. They shouldn't have to hang out at a Shell gas station. The stadium will not bring drugs and alcohol, but it will bring a community together. This is 2017. The community is growing. Younger families are coming up. In 2017, the family dinner time has made an adjustment around watching our children play the sports that they love and put their heart and soul into. I do recall years back that most of the opposition was against the Starbucks due to the parking issues, and now I'm sure I see most of them there on a regular basis. Please bring the lights to Sam Marin.
Last speaker of the night, Michael Kelly.
Hi. I'm reading this letter on behalf of Eric Koenig, who couldn't be here tonight. It says, to the Novato Unified School District Board of Trustees and Superintendent, my name is Eric Koenig. I've been a resident of Sam Marin for 27 years. My daughter graduated from Sam Marin High School in 2010. She played 2 varsity sports for 4 years and had an excellent experience in both sports. I find it very unfortunate that the Sam Marin High School lights and sound proposal has devolved into a win-lose, us against them dynamic. It's also unfortunate that there has not been any meaningful win-win solutions identified that could meet the needs of each constituency. As I understand it, the shortage of practice space is the primary driver behind this project, and Friday night football games is an appealing byproduct for many supporters of the project. As I have considered this proposal, I have often found myself wondering what other actions could possibly occur to expand practice space opportunities and what sorts of creative solutions have been considered given the resources the sports boosters apparently have garnered for the lights. It is no secret that there is likely potential for costly legal action if the board approves this project. I would like to suggest that board members consider calling a timeout of sorts and seek recommendations from consultants with expertise in best practices for maximizing athletic facilities on campuses other than installing 80-foot light towers. Perhaps there are some different ways to reconfigure existing field space for multiple purposes and alternative light sources adequate for evening practices without imposing on the nearby neighborhoods. I think there's a teachable moment here for the students of Sam Marin High School that soon will be lost. Life and relationships are all about compromise and respect for one another. When disagreements occur, there are valuable lessons to be learned from seeking solutions in good faith that work for all parties. This is an opportunity to model for students how conflicts can be resolved without defaulting to win-lose dynamics. The Novato Unified School District may ultimately have the legal authority to install stadium lights and host new evening activities that will shed light glare, project sound, increase traffic, etc., where previously there was none. Unfortunately, these changes and all other listed in the environmental impact report will indeed affect the quality of life for many residents in the surrounding neighborhoods. While most neighbors understand how living near a high school may generally affect them, this truly is a significant change that will impact the nature and character of this portion of Sam Marin. This project also represents a significant change in what has historically been a cooperative relationship between the school and the surrounding neighborhood. For 50 years, Sam Marin High School and the neighbors have had a mutual respect and understanding of one another's needs and interests. This project genuinely undermines a well-established trust and precedent. Thank you for consideration. Best regards, Eric Koenig.
Thank you, Michael. Well, that's our last speaker of the night. I'm going to bring it back to the trustees, and we can. Why don't we start? Who'd like to start us off? Trustee Miller.
I have a question of scope or fact, and
It doesn't respond to any of the comments that I've heard so far, but I'd like to put it on the table for us to reflect on. So if this is a little bit off topic, we can skip it. We've been talking this evening about lights, 8 stanchions and access lights that go over the primary field, the stadium field that's lacrosse and soccer and football play on. But we also have at San Marin 2 other spaces. One that we're going to put turf on, which is the current baseball field and upper soccer field, and the Gary Gates softball field. So in those 2 areas, while we consider lights for the stadium, I would like to know or have a conversation about never putting lights on the baseball field and considering retrofitting the Gary Gates field with LED lights versus the current lights. It's one thing for us to propose lights on the stadium, and we're discussing that now, but if in 5 years, the next school board after this one says, well, let's just now put lights and start working the way around the perimeter of the campus, I think that would be unfortunate, because I think this session that we're having is important. So that's a little off topic, like I said. So I'm going to just let it sit there and stop talking, and we'll continue with the rest of the conversation. But I think it's an important thing the 7 of us need to think about.
And I don't know what to say, Ross. I think you've made your comment. I appreciate that. I think we've had that conversation about how we can have teeth in enforcing something for future boards. So, but let's have the.
Yeah. I didn't expect a reflection so much. Is just something to put on people's minds to think about. Thank you, Mr. President.
Anyone else? Trustee Mack. I knew you had something.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I mean, I've been taking notes for the last, well, Superintendent Hogenboom noted it's been 18 months, which is kind of funny because that corresponds with when I first joined the board. It seems like this issue never has gone away. But needless to say, it's been a long process. And no matter what, I want to really thank everybody, and I mean everybody, for participating in this process, especially the folks who had concerns and went out of their way to try to find ways to work with everybody. There's been a few of you, you know who you are, that did a really great job of trying to find a way to make it work. And I really appreciate that effort. And that's what really drove a lot of our ARs, which are actually quite a bit different than where we started. And I'm really proud that we came that far. That said, since about December, but mostly in the last 3 weeks, I've received 922 emails on this one topic. 922. It's been about a 10-to-1 ratio, but I'll just leave that there. But I want to say this. I did everything I could to respond to every single one of those emails, because I think what's more important than just this one issue is that everybody is here participating, driving this community. This is our school, this is our community, and I'm really glad to see people are getting engaged. I really hope that people, after this issue is over, don't just walk away and say, hey, I'm done. Both the yeses and the nos. Keep coming. Keep driving us. That's how we improve. A few things I just want to say that I got from some of the quotes from these emails that are pretty interesting. One, if all those initiatives that were passed in other communities were causing so much harm, as the opponents would say, then why aren't those other residents from those other modernized towns moving to Novato, where they would theoretically not have to deal with the negatives of modernization? Another quote, remember the masses of moms and dads and grandparents, and this one really got to me. Remember the masses of moms and dads and grandparents out on the field coaching for free or in the bleachers rooting for their kids who are learning important life skills while participating in team sports. You will hear less from them. They are busy passing down their good values to their children. They are the fabric of this city, and they need you to turn the lights on so the kids can keep playing. Part of education is playing in the band, being in the drama club, and participating in sports. And last but not least, this quote really stood out for me. Currently, most of our events are played on Saturday or Sunday during the most intense part of the heat and sun. We have seen these kids suffer in their performance as a result of the heat exhaustion and sunstroke. There are significantly less people in attendance as a result of the heat, especially in September and October. Additionally, midday weekend sporting events conflict with the weekend family schedules and make it difficult for parents to attend. I think we've all heard that. As many of you know, I've lived in this town for more than 50 years. I actually went to this school. I lived in San Marin at a time when there were no houses on the hill. There were no townhouses adjacent to the north end zone. Heck, most of San Marin Drive was vacant. There was no stop signs until you got to Simmons Lane. It's changed. And change is part of the process. And that's why we're here. As well, my perspective on the subject is probably more based on observed fact than I would say than really anybody in this room. Because a lot of you might know that I spent almost 20 years as a varsity football referee. I've been to a lot of stadiums, 500 plus games. I've been to pretty much every stadium north of the Golden Gate, actually south as well. There's lights at Point Arena. There's lights in Healdsburg. There's lights in Napa. Pristine places. I don't get it, especially in the last couple years when these lighting systems are just beyond belief in how sharp they are. There is no bleed over. And to Ross's point, I agree, the softball lights, we probably could work on them. I think we could sharpen them up because they should have the same type of impact as these lights. And one thing to point out, ever since all the high schools went to turf, heat has become a real problem for daytime playing. So when I played football on the grass, daytime games weren't that big a deal, it was fine. But now we're on turf, they're playing on plastic. 95 degree, 90 degree game, it's 110 on the turf. It is common for a varsity game for a kid or more to leave the game with heat stroke. With all the concerns about concussions, getting confused with heat stroke, it's important. And that's one of the main reasons it's driving me. And lastly, I'll say this. Once again, 500 games. I've never once seen a security issue in the stands on a Friday night. Do we have problems with kids in the field? Yeah. We penalize them, send them to the coach, get them off the field. But never once in the stands. The families are there. They're there to enjoy it and support their community. And that's what's so important to me, is the community. So while I appreciate the various suggestions for alternatives, they all fail due to one or both of the following two problems. Remote locations, I understand it, I get it. That does sound like it makes sense, but it doesn't solve the problem for practices. We can't be shipping kids across town for practices. While San Ramon is interesting, it costs a lot. That's like $4 or $5 million to turf that thing. And the net new stadium, once again, is just too costly. We just, if we had the money, I'd be all over it. Napa's beautiful, but we don't have that kind of money. All that said, it's pretty clear where I stand on this issue. Simply put, I'll vote yes on the lights.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Mack. Who would like to go next? Trustee Butler.
Sure. Well, thank you, everybody, from the beginning of this process till now. This has been quite the process, and tonight is an important decision in regards to San Marin High School and the community as well. And this is one of the many issues that we've had at this caliber. We've had others in the past, so this is nothing new to this board. We've had very contentious issues in the past. We get through it, we do the process correctly, and here we are tonight now. So this is not the only time this school board has heard lights before. For me, this is my third time having this discussion at the board table, and I've been on the board since 2006. 2009 was the last time we had this discussion, and it started off just as a community presentation. I want to bring lights to Novato High and San Marin. It was both high schools at the time. And we ended up going in a different direction as a board. It wasn't the right timing, and everything just didn't quite work out. Most of part of that conversation, the pros and cons that was happening at that time are the same that are being presented here tonight and what we've heard over the time. And several of those opposed back then in 2009 are opposed again this year. It's the same group as what I'm seeing. This process is much more thorough and inclusive from where we began and where we ended tonight. With the completion of an EIR, the community input, the 1,000+ emails that we received, the letters, comments in board meetings, we were able to hear both sides, which is how I make a decision, is hearing both sides. We took a field trip to Hillsdale High School. We visited 2 homes in the surrounding area to see that perspective. And we held 3 community meetings to come to a board policy and administrative regulation that will help guide us, which will help very specific parameters and the usage of the lights in the PA system. One thing I did for myself, as I said, is this unusual for us, this process that we're going through? Are we crazy? What's going on? So I looked at other districts around California. I listened to other board meetings. Let me tell you, that's pretty boring. I read meeting minutes. I read articles on other districts going through this process. Well, guess what? It's not any different than what we're doing here tonight. If anything, we are being much more inclusive and thorough, is what I felt. And so from that, I did my homework, and I've come to a conclusion. So, my number one goal is, as I sit here on this board, is student success. Student success is not just about academics. It's about the whole student, and it always has been for me from the very beginning, which includes arts, sports, extracurricular activities, social, emotional. It's everything encompassing of that student. And as I always do, I will make sure the student is at the forefront of my decision this evening. But in this particular decision, I can't ignore the impact that this might have on the surrounding community and the surrounding neighborhood. So in the best interest of the surrounding neighborhood, we need to do our best to mitigate the effects, which I believe we are. And as long as I serve on this board, I'm committed to making sure the board policy and those administrative regulations are firm. But I do not want them to negatively impact our athletic program. But we have to hold ourselves accountable. The relationship that has been created through this process with the neighbors needs to continue beyond this decision tonight. And the lights will not only benefit the students, the sports program, and school, it will benefit the Novato community, which I think is the best thing about this. And this is not a decision for just today. This is for the future of the school, the future of the Novato community. So as George said, let there be light.
All right. Thank you, Trustee Butler. Trustee Aguilar?
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. So it's true that I graduated from Novato High and not San Marin. It's true that I've lived in Novato for 40 years, but not San Marin, by San Marin. I believe that the lights, I even believe that the lights are not a need. In fact, I think they're a privilege, and they're a right. It's a privilege, and we need to treat it as such. I believe that with this privilege comes respect, accountability, and responsibility if these lights do get approved. To me, it was about the process, and I believe for all of us too. I myself have learned a lot, and ahead of time, I apologize deeply with all of my heart for some of the people that felt that they were bullied. And that includes children and the neighbors and the NUSD. I think that I apologize that maybe we could have done it better. Maybe the process could have been better. However, the feeling of bullying that I kept hearing about from some of you, it really hurt me to know that you guys were feeling that way. As a co-chair for the Bully Prevention Committee, this is the last feeling that I wanted you guys to feel. And a psychology major, that also I'm touched by that, and I apologize, especially to the neighbors. The feeling that you have of fear and anger, it's real. And I appreciate that. However, I think that we can make it work. I believe in our students. I believe that our students are mature. I believe that our parents will help and the school district can help the students to be good neighbors. I believe that as I speak with the students and they come up to me and they say, I hope you vote for the lights. You know, I appreciate their desire, but I always came back with the question to them. I said, if the lights get approved, what would you do? We got emails from students. Maybe they got extra credit, I don't know. To me, it doesn't matter. When I emailed them back, I always made sure that they came back and I asked for ideas and solutions. It was an opportunity that I had in my hands to teach the students that they can be leaders and that they could be good neighbors. So I believe that the key word here is trust. We are trustees, and our parents trust us with their most important thing in their lives, and that's their children. So what an honor. But without that honor also comes responsibility. So I believe that the trust needs to be between the school district, the neighbors, and the students. So I would like to, I think this is an opportunity for us to teach the students, and a lot of our students already know that we are to trust each other and to be respectful and accountable. And if the lights do get approved, because I don't know how everybody else is going to vote, but if the lights do get approved, I ask that we all be a part of the solution and not a problem. I too have done my homework. I've gone to the neighbors' homes, and let me tell you, it's not a good thing that they're very close to the lights. I acknowledge that. I read the EIR. Wasn't easy. Not perfect. But I believe, again, that we can make it work, that there's ways that we can make it work. I got a bunch of emails too, at some point I remember, and I believe this was after somebody posted on Novato neighborhood, to email us. There was a point where there was tons of emails. So no, I did not write back to everybody. But when I did, I did it with the sincere heart. And I wrote back, whether it was at midnight or 1 o'clock or 2 o'clock, or whatever time I could. So, as a psychology major, I just, I want to say to the neighbors, I respect you, and I recognize the fear. But again, I ask the school district that we make it work. I'm in favor of the lights.
Trustee Nell. Thank you, Trustee Aguirre.
All right, I'm going to be brief. First, I just want to say it's been a long process. I think it's important to recognize there's been a lot of input, conversation, and I want the majority of people who commented, the 900 or so emails we received and letters and comments that I got personally, the vast majority of you are just more than reasonable and considerate. You show empathy for both sides and understanding, and your positions were just fair and respectful. And I think that it's important to acknowledge the majority of common sense and consideration and respect that is in this community. And it's not about the loud noises on the extreme ends. So just wanted to recognize that. This whole process that we've been through, I've had a lot of concern and empathy about the neighbors. It's more than obvious that they live right next door and that there's going to be an impact with noise, lights, and crowds. That's a realistic thing to me, and I think that I want to respect that. And I think that we, as an organization, have done as much as we possibly can to mitigate those concerns, and I think we'll continue to do the best that we can. But after considering all the issues and the facts and the information, I just have to come down on the side of education and support the installation of the lights.
Trustee Scott. Thank you, Trustee Nell.
Thank you. So for me, this has been a really long process, 18 months. And what I would like to say is thank you for all the emails. You guys I have probably spent weeks reading all the emails. 3 weekends reading this EIR. We've spent so much time on this, and what I really want to say is thank you for the process. I want to thank staff. I want to thank the neighbors, the trustees, the community. This has been a long, long process. I appreciate that we took the field trip. I appreciate the neighbors inviting us into your homes for us to see. For me, that really just came full circle. This is a difficult decision. For me, when I really weighed in on it is when we took the field trip. When I actually saw those lights, when I walked across the street to the neighbor's house, that I saw that the lights weren't bleeding over. I thought it was so much different from what I thought when I was young and I went to night games at San Rafael. Those lights were blaring. I have to say that I was pleasantly surprised the technology has come along. That for me, I thought it was such an incredible difference, it was something I could support. That being said, for me, sports, this is about student success. I see sports as an extension of the classroom. It teaches leadership, teamwork, respect, leadership. And for some kids, this is the one thing that gets them to come to school. And you can't play on any of our teams unless you have a passing GPA. So that's really, really important. And it's important for those kids to get them here, to get that education. So I'm also in support of the lights. And that's it. Trustee Milrick?
Thank you, Trustee Scott. Trustee Millard.
Okay, so I guess I'm the last one in.
Well, you're next to the last, but.
Oh.
Yeah,
Oh,
so you can say anything.
Yeah, I think it's appropriate this president speak last, so I would like to go.
Well, I'm glad you feel that way, Ross.
Well, there's, so we've heard we've been at, as everyone said, we've been at this a long time. And this evening, we heard from Larry Scheibel, we heard from Kathy Giovanni, we've heard from Eric Sutton-Beatty, my friend, and president of the Nevada Human Needs Center when my wife worked for him. We've heard from Marianne Anderson, who I believe has left the building. I don't see her, who supported the lights. Last time we heard from Mrs. Halville, that teaches on biology, and I don't know your name, but as a teacher in this district, I know that you expect support from the team that's behind you, and you stood up and supported the lights. Mr. Piccolo spoke about his commitment to education, and we heard from others. In my consideration of this, and as you know, I voted against the EIR, and I did so because I thought the issues that we needed to consider for the community and the impact on the neighborhood was significant and dramatic. And Mr. Jolly, thank you very much for the time you've spent helping make that process clearer. Since then, particularly not only going down to Hillsdale to look at that lights, but last Thursday, the district met and put together regulations and standards. And during that discussion, the hours of operation have been significantly cut back. The question is, have we found a balance point between what serves students and what the Board of Trustees of the school district need to make sure students are supported, and the needs in the community surrounding the campus? And to me, that meeting last Thursday was significant. We've got the hours cut back during the week. We've got ARs that are in place. Just this evening, I added what I would like to be included in that conversation is what's the future of lights on the baseball field, and what are we going to do about the Emily Gates Field? Can we retrofit that to mitigate the impact in that and have that as a conversation going forward? But I think our job as the elected body, 7 of us, that this town elects, is to support schools and public education in the future of our kids. And that is, we're trustees for a school district, and we have to make that our first and foremost obligation while mitigating any other impacts. And I think if you put kids first, you have to come down on the side of expanding the academic and sports programs on this facility. I'm going to vote yes on this measure. But like I said, when I walk down the aisles at Harvest Market, I see 20 people I know, and 10 support lights vehemently, and 10 oppose them vehemently because it's affecting their homes. We have to do everything we possibly can to make sure that those people's lives are not adversely affected. And I would invite a further conversation. I would invite these other topics I've introduced to make sure that we are the very best neighbors we can in the community we live in. That said, you know where I'm going to vote.
Thank you,
Thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Ross. I guess it's up to me. I'm the last one. I just wanted to mainly, first of all, I'd like to talk to the process and how I think that we handled ourselves as a board. This came up 18 months ago, whatever, and I think we've done a tremendous job of being inclusive, being respectful of the neighbors. When I lived in a house for a little over 20 years, and I was a couple blocks away from the high school, Novato High School, and every Saturday morning, of course, you'd hear the excitement and it depends which direction you look at it, but I thought, well, this is exciting. I was out working in the yard, and I hear the kids throw a touchdown, and oh, that's great. So for me, it was not a bad experience to hear that. I think moving forward, we just need to make sure, as Trustee Miller just said, we need to make sure that whatever we do, that we respect the neighbors and we include them in the mitigation that we're going to be doing, and to make sure that continues. It doesn't just happen now, and hopefully in future boards it doesn't change. But I want to make sure that's really, really important. We're all community members, the school community, the neighbors. We're all members of the Novato community. So let's make sure that that happens. I want to make sure. I received a pretty good education about the lights. I think my aha moment was going down to Hillsdale, and I saw the lights, and I saw that really there wasn't, with these new lights, there's really not all this bleed over that the old ones, as you mentioned, did. So I'm happy about that. I don't really think that's going to be that much of an impact. I do think that we need to, I'm looking forward to the new PA system, which will theoretically improve a lot because there is the sound. And as far as we did look in outer areas, we looked at IVC, and essentially the cities came back and said they're not available. It wasn't an option. So, you know, that would have been a wonderful thing, but it didn't. That didn't pan out. That did not work. So, I think in closing, because I know you all want to go home, right? You already. I think we have to. Bottom line, and I appreciate all your emails also, but I think bottom line for me, there's been multiple studies we've been told about where students do better if they're involved with athletics, and I'm also going to vote yes for this.
Mr. President, may I make a motion?
Hold on there, Mr. President.
All right. Well, let's hold on a minute. Continue, yes. So who's going to make a motion? Trustee Mack?
Hold on there, rookie. Mr. President, I would like to make the motion.
All right, pull straws.
So I would be the first to make the motion to accept the superintendent's recommendation to move forward with the lights.
All right, that would be a first.
And the rookie will second it.
Be the second. Okay, Nell and Mac. Okay. All in favor, please? Go. Yes. Bryce? It's a lawyer thing, I'm told. Hold on. Trustee Nell, could you please read off the resolution as it appears on the agenda as part of your motion?
It'd be a pleasure. I would like to move approval of the San Marin High School Stadium Lights Project and then Resolution 31-2016 of 2017 for the Board of Education of the Nevada Unified School District approving the San Marin High School Stadium Lights Project, adopting a statement of overriding consideration in support thereof, and adopting a mitigation monitoring plan.
All right, so you've made the motion, that's first, and the second again?
I will second it again.
Okay, we have a first and a second. A nod from our attorney? Yes? Okay. All in favor? That passes 7-0. Meeting adjourned.